EdibleSpirit Hour. Greetings and salutations, dear, sweet, most delicious beings, and welcome to the Edible Spirit Hour. This is your weekly dose of divine deliciousness, including all things astrological, gastronomical, and mystical, magical. We love to feature healers and healing here because it's something that we all do kind of all the time. We always say that healing happens anyway. Healing is what happens when you think you're not doing anything. But we started the show because it seems like we end up doing a lot of healing in secret or private, and we wanted to put it out there and share it like a delicious banquet of healing and self-expression, as opposed to like something heavy or tedious or annoying or even difficult. Like difficulty's fine, but you know, we aim for okayness and synchronization. The clocks have changed, right? So that's random, that's very arbitrary. So we look for natural flow and an easy balance between who we are, who we think we are, who we used to be, who we could be, but mainly focusing on right now. And right now, we are here. We're going to get to the F Me update in just a minute, and then we'll bring in our amazing guest, Kamara Thomas, of Hella Witchy readings and a whole bunch of other really amazing, beautiful, super cool stuff. So we're very excited to have this guest here today. Meanwhilst, let's give you the F Me update. This is our moment of astrological and gastronomical deliciousness. We always start the show with this, where we bring you the celestial happenings du moment and the culinary happenings du moment, everything that's going on in the skies and everything that's going on in our kitchen. Main things you need to know by way of astrology is that new moon was yesterday, early in the morning. New moon is functionally conjunct Venus and Neptune. So a simultaneous extra, and it's in Pisces, so extra increase of dissolving energy, making the veil seem very, very thin. But then Venus also picking up what you're putting down, attracting to you what you're emanating. And we read it last week for you as this combination between the sort of dissolving frequencies of Neptune, which help us to see between the lines and figure out what's going on and where we need to go, what's ready to be healed, and that Venusian aspect, which is more practical, more tangible. We won't even say practical, just more tangible, more physical, more sensual. So it was a week, or it was a new moon that we were preparing you for, but new moon yesterday that was both very transcendental, very blurry, no boundaries, dissolving all the edges, in addition to being somehow very tangible and anchored and like, okay, this is where we are and this is where we're going. This is what we're doing. In addition to this, though, we have an even more exciting event because it's one of the big quarters of the year, cross quarters of the year. The sun changes signs and enters into the sign of Aries on 5:38 a.m. on the 20th. I believe it's the 20th. Yeah, early in the morning on the 20th, right? Let me just double check on that for you because I don't want to give you crap info. 5:38 on the 20th. Yes, thank you all. Some interesting things about this. So just by way of equinox, right? Remember, equinox is moment in the northern hemisphere where day and night are functionally equal, same amount of light and day. The sun is not at its highest point in the sky or its lowest point in the sky. It's right at that midpoint. Whereas the whereas the summer and winter have like a more extreme solstice feeling, right? The winter solstice, December 21st, drives us inside. Summer solstice brings us out and helps us grow. This equinox is a kind of tipping point. It's a moment of balance that's only perfect at that moment of the equinox before it sort of cascades into something new. What's interesting about this is that, and this is how we've been processing this week, is that the Pisces energy, both between the new moon and the sort of last days of Pisces before we shift into Aries, has just been everywhere. And, you know, we always talk shit because we're nasty Scorpio water scrunt, you know, about how, whoa, wavy gravy the Pisces queens are. But man, has it been nice to get some of this Pisces energy, because we've been really experiencing, and I wonder if you've been experiencing this too, really experiencing the sort of closure aspects, the completion aspects of Pisces, vis-a-vis the last sign in the zodiac. So it's when the clock resets itself. It's the astrological pagan new year, right? Is this upcoming equinox. And so, yeah, it's a move from a mutable sign into a cardinal sign, the end of a cycle, of one cycle into the beginning of another. And we've really just been feeling that force of Pisces to dissolve things that can't be carried into the next round, right? To help to clear things that just can't be taken with us. And as we've been experiencing just these extra little baby glimmers of hope, right? As COVID is changing and people are getting vaccinated, and it becomes possible to think about, for once, for the first time in a really long time, like, what's going to happen next? Where are we going to go? You know, if not just in this sort of end of days, stuck in the house, pandemic vibe. And yet there's also this other part, which is about this Pisces moment symbolizing the end of a cycle, the end of an era, and this question of, what did you learn during this? What have you learned? What are you learning during this COVID time? And not what are you learning, really, sorry, but what have you learned that you know you don't want to take with you into the next cycle? It's cool because Pisces wants to dissolve that anyway, so it's a really great time to be like that. Drown that fucking bullshit. That shit's ready to go. Okay. Pisces, the waters of Pisces, the oceanic waters of Pisces will rise up and absorb that and submerge it and dissolve it and clear it. So we've been really going off of that vibe. Because there's just so much Pisces energy in the air. And so we're also kind of looking at this upcoming equinox as not just the beginning of Aries, but really also the end of Pisces. Because sometimes there's this theory that you don't really feel the effects of the sign that you've just been dominated by until you move into another sign, which the sun is doing, going into Aries. So let's see, there was one other interesting thing. Oh, which is that Mars during this equinox is going to be conjunct something called the Imam Coeli, which is the not the midheaven, which is all about your career and your sort of place in the world, but the, I don't know, subheaven, the bottom of the zodiac, the barrel of the zodiac, kind of represents these like deeply unconscious aspects of self. The planet Mars is conjunct the most unconscious portion of our chart, the deepest part of our chart. So it literally says that there's energy that is going into, during the equinox, going into breaking up really deep, the most deeply unconscious patterns. So deep that you might not even know about them. Well, guess what? Pisces is a great time to allow the awareness of what's unconscious to sort of bubble up. Or does it bubble up, or are you submerged in the unconscious? So just pay attention to what freaks you out, what triggers you. Pay attention to anxiety. Pay attention to things that spin you from your center, because most likely it's material that's related to those things that push and trigger and overwhelm, that is ready to be cleared as we move into this next era of just the next year, really, the next Aries era, saying, what have we learned and how are we going to carry it with us? And as things go back to normal, I mean, I don't know how that's going to happen, but as people try to make things go back to normal, we just have been really feeling that it's going to be important to remove all the bullshit from the last year of the zodiac and just keep what's good and what works and what's useful and what's helpful and what brings us more closely together, okay? As opposed to all these things that have kept us apart. It's gonna be some work, but we're here for you. We're here together. We're doing this together. We are ready to go. We're ready to deal. Let me just check in on y'all before I show you my delicious snacks from the week. Okay. We love you. We're so excited to have you here tonight. P.S. We're going to bring Kamara in just a moment. Remember, Kamara is a fierce reader. We have the whole Edible Spirit Collective assembled with us. We've called them in to do work with us and with you. So if you would like a reading with Edible Spirit and the Collective, join us via Zoom. And if you know you want to read from Kamara or you have a question for Kamara, now you know that, get in the Zoom room. But also once we're chatting and chitting away, if you think you want to ask a question or get a reading, join us in the Zoom room. You can find a link for that at ediblespirit.com as well as on Instagram at ediblespirit. So join us, because we're here for you. Meanwhile, whilst I shall show the, let's show you the juiciest first before I show you sort of the greatest hits. So this was by way of a little bit of a recipe for a zucchini ceviche that's very simple. It's got garlic, grated, salt, pepper, the juice of 2 lemons, a bunch of olive oil, and then we mandolined a whole bunch of zooks, a whole bunch of beautiful zucchinis, and basically they're still sitting downstairs, marinating, macerating, juicifying, one piece of zucchini on top of the next. We love this. You can add herbs to it. You can add other spices. You could do it with, what else could you do it with? Well, yellow squash. You could do it, I suppose you could do it with carrots, but you probably have to leave it in there for a lot longer. Oh, look, they're going in backwards now. We don't need to do that for you though. Anything else really exciting to share? Yeah, so zucchini ceviche, that was really fun. Anything else that's glorious? Let's just check this baby out for you. Oh yeah, this was fun. We had some good salmon. We made Singapore my fun. That was really nice. Oh, pork chops. This was great. This was a vegan macaroni and cheese made with soaked cashews that were soaked in boiling water, a bunch of nutritional yeast, a little bit of sweet potato pureed, and like salt, pepper, vegan butter, right? So full on vegan mac and cheese, gluten-free because it's with brown rice shells. We've been getting into it. No idea what those buddies are. Oh, this was really good too. Tofu curls that were soaked in hot water with poultry seasoning, and it made kind of like a chicken for a delicious spinach salad. So yeah, that was our F Me update. Those were the snacks and delicious recipes we made this week, and that was your astrological moment. But without further ado, let's bring in a beloved, gifted diviner, reader of souls, healer of souls, speaker of souls, venerator of souls, right? Someone who honors sentience and truth and light. The one, the only, Kamara Thomas. Give it up. Coming in as we speak.
Hello.
Welcome to you to the Edible Spirit Hour.
Hello. I'm so happy to be here.
It's so great to have you. I hope you like our spring foraged background, which we
so beautiful.
just for you, because we were like, what would Kamara taste like at this moment? And it was like, foraged morels, ramps, and fiddleheads, my love.
You do not even know. This week I've been doing some ancestral healing with a woman named Samira Cousette, and my right one this week was telling me how I really needed to focus on the forest floor. And on all of the things that the forest floor brings, like moss and mushrooms and fiddlehead ferns.
It's true. It's such a
bounty.
It's such a bountiful thing. I did a bibliomancy the other day when I was just having a moment, and I was like, what's the medicine I need to welcome in and call in right now? And I used that Ted Andrews Nature Speak book was the one that I was using. And that was it. It was about the forest as this like marvelously chaotic structured system, right? Because it's not a garden, but it's like, it's architectural.
And it's all Mama Earth doing what she does best in like such perfect harmony with herself. And I get to just like walk and I mean, I'm a forest witch. That's maybe obvious, but it's like, but that's what it is. It's like, I go into a forest and I'm like, there's so much happening, and it's so easy to just like look into a forest and be like, brown trees, it's really easy to focus on kind of the landscape aspect of it, of just like, like the calendar picture.
Right, the totality of it. Well, the forest for the trees, I believe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But so we love to start by getting into the question, how are you healing, both in terms of your own practice and for others? So, but let's go down this road a little bit. So when you say I'm a forest witch, how did you learn that? When did you discover that? What does that mean to you? Tell me something about your origins.
I mean, I grew up actually in the Midwest in Chicago, and I think, the Midwest, I think of the Midwest as like this blank canvas. Mm-hmm. It's like, I talk to people who are also from the Midwest about this idea. It's like, it's such an expanse. You can usually see the sky very easily, and it feels so flat, and like, you can feel like how you're just this drop in the bucket,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
On the land. And it's good for being an artist, because you just have this really boring blank canvas that you're just kind of staring at, and it can be a little bit depressing too, but but you work that through, you become an artist, and pour love and beauty in the world. But I would go on these camping trips, and we'd always do these, like, with my church. It's like the thing that I say that really, the one thing I got from growing up in this church was that these big, like, glorious trips into nature, like Minnesota and Montana and Colorado. And so that's right, and I all of my kind of spiritual experiences have happened in nature as a result of directly contacting nature, like just looking at the sky, mm-hmm. and just contemplating that leaf, and anyway, I don't know, it became pretty clear to me the more I walked through forest that I was like, this is the place.
Wait, so when you say you were with a church, we're talking like Christian church, old school, nothing
about some nice patriarchal Seventh-day Adventist, like, not even Black church where you can feel the spirit. It's like, just like sleepy town, wow. USA, like, guys are in charge. White dudes are in charge of this, and you just kind of try to get in line with what's happening, follow some rules.
Little did they know they were taking you into your bliss when they took you into the forest. And we talked to people a lot about, especially Catholics. My dad was Catholic, my mom was Greek Orthodox. We talked a lot to Catholics about reclaiming the mysticism of the church, because the Catholics are like high drag queens. But if the church is, you know what I mean? If very dramatic saints and burnings and all these things, yes. But we like to say that healing happens when self recognizes self in the other, right? That you don't think you're gonna see yourself necessarily when you go into the woods, and yet there you are staring right back at yourself. Yeah. And the cool thing about that is that no representative of God can stick themselves in between you and that truth. Ain't that a revolution?
It's so amazing. It's so great, because it gave me, and I mean, I had my first spiritual experience when I was 7. Wow. And it was this moment where it was like, oh, once it happens, no one can take it away. You're like, no, I know what it feels like to be connected. So whatever you're telling me, I get it. I can follow some rules or whatever. So you'll leave me alone. But like, there's no I just know in my body and in my soul what it feels like to be connected to my higher power.
We've talked about grid work on the show before too, about how clever the Catholic Church was for dropping churches on like sacred portals of earth energy that literally kept humanity connected. You know, they knew exactly what they were doing in that respect.
Yes.
And yet that connection's always available because that's, you know, it's always there. It's just different for everybody. So let me ask you this about, how does your natural connection and your connection to the forest get woven into your work today? I want to talk about music because I know that's a very spiritual part of yourself, but I think I'm asking this question is there any way in which the woods gets woven into your healing work and into working with other people?
Yes. I mean, you know, I experience everything as like this, you know, I'm a big old Virgo. I'm like sun, moon, Venus, ascendant,
Wow.
it all stelliumed up in Virgo. And like everything is about integration.
I'm Virgo rising, P.S. So I speak.
Okay. Oh, hey.
Got you.
Things are on fire right now. Woo! Can you feel it? Woo! Just keep,
I was like, does
going.
everybody obsess about the patterns of their daily practice like this psychotically? Like, it could be better.
Let's comb through it again.
And it's fine. It's totally fine.
I condone this behavior, okay? So you know, so I'm always looking for synthesis, you know. I'm like, how is the music, the forest, the spiritual practice, how is it all really the same thing? And for me, it's like, it all boils down to being an animist and being a mythology fanatic, you know?
Okay, so it's about mythology.
That comes into the music, it comes into the healing, it comes into everything, that just this belief, you know. And I think of like animist thought as simply being the religion of relationship, right? That it's like really just about taking, like really recognizing that I'm related to everything, that I'm not this like force that is enacting itself upon, right? But that, you know, and constantly trying to understand that, because our context and our society is teaching us that we are this force that simply enacts upon, right?
That does too.
But, you know, so it's all about like setting up those relationships. And then again, that's the same thing with the myths and the astrology and the tarot. You know, it's about, well, how is this a reflection of myself, you know? And then how am I shining my mirror for others, right? Like, how am I keeping my mirror clear for others to then reflect, knowing that I'm a reflection of them too, right? And so that makes its way into the music, it makes its way into the healing, it makes its way into everything.
I'm just very pleased that in doing my research on you, that I totally keyed in on this. Let me just say, I thought I was going on.
I read your description. I was like,
I was just
asked me.
Because I thought I was coming up with something, and you're like, no, I'm an animist. Like, I see soul in all things, animate, inanimate, like, no. And so it's so beautiful, because one of the ways we think about it too is that the belief that anything is separate, or that anything or anyone has more or less life than anything or anyone else, immediately creates a hierarchy that, well, of course, the next natural movement is to dominate the thing that's weaker than you, because you've placed it separate from you, and it's weak. You know, it's
something that's separate, so it can be enacted upon, and I'm either, you know, dominating it or allowing it to be, right? So it's like both the masculine and the feminine, the magnetic and direct energies get warped internally the minute I try to enact upon. instead of wait and relate
To
and
myself. I'm relating to the continuum.
yes.
So then correct me if I'm wrong here, that then there is, wow, very fucking cool, Kamara. Because
then there's so much energy, like what we don't realize is how much energy becomes available when we relate that way.
And how
energy there is.
But what I'm trying to get at is that, so then you are basically stewarding people through a process of either dissolving those separations or just recognizing those relationships. And you could do that by reading the signs of the stars in an astrology reading, or you could do that by giving a reading with tarot cards, or you could do that by telling a story or spelling a story, or uplifting a frequency, a vibration. You know, the readers that I respect the most too are the ones who know what you know, because then you can do a tarot reading for someone, never forgetting to affirm their sovereignty and their sentience and,
Yes.
and their life.
And I also, every reading I give, I can feel how spirit has brought us together for my learning as well. Right? So that, I mean, invariably, every reading I give, there is some bit of it where I was like, yep, I'm learning that too. I'm learning that too. And I'm needing to loop back around to this. And by just speaking the truth I'm seeing to the client, I am integrating further the lesson myself, you know? And it's like, it's so beautiful. I'm always amazed. I'm like, oh my God, they're learning this too. This is amazing, you know?
But this is because you're comfortable not knowing everything.
Yeah.
Because
well, I was looking at I don't know what I was doing. I think I was looking at last week's EdibleSpirit Hour while I was waiting to come on. I was like, I think he just said Bearcat's coming on. So I think I'm in the wrong place, but I was getting so much out of your reading when you were talking about this Pisces energy and this idea of dissolving and being more porous and really, and I've been thinking a lot this week, just for all the things that are going on in my life, how it's the transition space, it's the liminal space that has so much energy inside of it, because it's the space where, you know, if you've surrendered a bunch and let go of a shit ton, right, and really withdrawn your energy from these old, outmoded, the things that are the compost now, right? You're like, okay, that's compost now. I can leave that alone. You get all of that energy back, right? Where you're like, whoa, there's all this energy available that I'm not putting toward that now. And then the energy's like not focused toward the future yet. You know, there's no like, oh, I'm this and I'm that, and I've got to go there and there and there. And so there's nowhere that the energy's being kind of like wrangled and focused into.
Right.
So that you can just like, and I was like, Pisces, I get you, you know, like
totally.
Like we're just in that space experiencing the energy and experiencing its immensity and experiencing its power and its glory and its essence.
And you can't really rush through the void. Because you end up, then that's basically like, oh my goodness, we're going down a myth. And that's basically like Orpheus looking back, you know, like, because you're not trusting the subterranean process, and you're not respecting the natural cycles of things. And that's something I've been doing during this period of Pisces, is recognizing that I have a tendency to jump now, because I'm like, oh, it's liminal, let's go somewhere else, you know. And I'm really not going there. I'm really going, you know, I said this in the beginning of the opening tonight, that if status quo is unfortunately taking over, if like people really want to go back to the old ways, then it's going to be even more important that I or you or anybody who has an awareness of not wanting to do that is very conscious about how we make decisions right now.
Yeah. Yes. So important. It's so important. And giving that, like using this time to like really, like something else I got out of your message was like really taking this time to rest into that energy and reassess, like, what do I need now? That's that Venus piece, right? That Venus, like, what's my body telling me I need right now? Like, how can I trust this body, this vehicle more, that is the thing that experiences pleasure and like takes in the sweetness of life? How can I trust it to tell me what I need right now? Like, what's the new need? What's the new emergence of where I'm going to be focusing my energy? Not that I have to focus my energy now. It's just time to take stock.
Well,
like, oh, I think that
especially-
would taste better. I think
Totally.
that would feel better, you know?
Especially because I think so many people that I've encountered specifically, in both clients and friends, are feeling this weird, already, like it's ending. What now? Like, what do we do? Oh my God! And there's this, it's so scary to me, because I think that if the majority of the world were to really listen to what their body needed to do right now, it would be very pissy and it would probably want to cry.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I'm just
what the fuck just happened? We've just been, this entire world has been in some form of survival mode for a year.
Yep.
And now the world's kind of telling us like, okay, survival mode's done, get back to work.
Dunzo! And I
need to process what the fuck just happened back here.
Gotta process some of this stuff. So, because it's like, otherwise, I don't know, the tears, they've got to be cried eventually. So my feeling is like, use this Pisces moment to lean into it. And so yesterday I didn't have the energy to do a new moon moment of any kind. I had all these intentions to do new moon stuff. I'll probably do Nina tomorrow. Good. But instead I let myself mourn time lost, because I've been trying to be so positive through this whole thing that I hadn't actually opened my heart up to how sad I was for all of the just time that's been lost.
Yeah.
You know, so I feel like grieving is a very natural thing to do at the end of this cycle, because then we can be reborn.
And Pisces is so good for that. It's like every Pisces healer I know is like so good at that. They're just like these chalices holding space for people. And it reminds me of, like, you know, there's a very active asteroid right now is Cheroklo, who is the wife of Chiron.
Oh, Chiron, right?
And her, you know, role is to like hold compassionate space. That's it. We're not doing anything about it. We're not like we're not even processing it. You know, we're just holding space compassionately for whatever is happening. And that, you know, that idea of grief, not even idea, but that feeling of grief is one of the hardest things to hold space for in our context on this timeline.
But water is that universal solvent.
Yes, baby.
It will dissolve everything if given the time.
Yes.
So talk to me a little bit about, I want to talk about music for a second. So talk to me about Country Soul Songbook. Because, do you know that I was looking at the website, do you know the first concert I ever saw was the Indigo Girls at the Tweeter Center, which became the Fleet Center in Massachusetts? Guess who opened for the Indigo Girls? Eulalie opened for the Indigo Girls. And I hadn't thought about them in probably 20 years, and it was so cool to plug in. So my based on the conversation that we're having right now, I want to ask you, so is Country Soul Songbook sort of like a deliciously collaborative experience to kind of activate the old and new myths of what, of whom? I'm just trying to connect it to what we've been saying.
Yes. So Country Soul, okay, let me see if I can get, I don't know, some kind of coagulation. So yes, it is, I think of it as like a artist driven, as in creativity driven project, where what we're trying to do is re-mythologize country and Americana music.
Amen.
Right? And that means that there are lots of storylines and timelines and artists from the past who have not been recognized that need to be recognized. And then there are a bunch of artists right now, including myself, including Kim Register, including Reese Palmer, you can go to Country Songbook and see a bunch of them, but it's like all of the underrepresented voices of country. And this is all of the Black and brown people. This is Indigenous people. This is queer people. This is everybody who doesn't get to fit in the mold of what we know country is, right? And or what its mythology has built itself to be. And so then we're moving forward with that, and also saying, well, this is what, if we were to make country music into a thing, and country Americana thing, this is what we would make out of our creative selves, not driven by like industry or whatever the muck is, that is the behemoth patriarchal structure that is like not moving. We're not interested in tearing it down. It's like it's gonna fall down on its own. I have no interest in pouring my creative energy into
extinguishing the dinosaurs.
So we're creating that anew, and then so it's like we're doing our best to repair the past and then create the new. But all of it is funneled through like, what's the creative emergence? What's the creative like urge, and really dedicated to the idea of the song, that like, it's really the song that has to be re-engaged. So especially when it comes to the past, being like, we're going to sing these songs because it's, when you put a song inside your body, it's alive again.
Right.
And our society, and we're dealing in a genre of music that deals with tradition. So it's, it's a place where especially American mythology gets stored, is in song.
100%.
And so
one of my best friends growing up was a folk singer that opened my mind to just exactly what you're describing, the mythological importance of country music. And what's that road that goes through is it through the Blue Ridge Mountains? That's that like
Blue Ridge Parkway?
What's it called?
The Blue Ridge Parkway?
No, there's another road that's like a music road that all of these different it's not actually like just the one highway, but it was, I can't remember when I was driving through this. Where are you located too? You're in Virginia, right?
I'm in Durham, North Carolina.
Oh, you're in Durham. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Durham was the last place that we ate before pandemic. I ate at a Cuban restaurant on the way down because the beginning of our quarantine was in the Outer Banks randomly.
Oh my gosh. Remember where you ate?
It was called Cuba Cuba.
Ah, Cuba Cuba.
Cuba Cuba. Well, okay, wait a second. So I got distracted because I got excited about it. So
country mythology.
The country mythology. So yes, because it's an American song form, as you said, it's the repository for American myths. What I think is so funny about it is that you listen to country music radio now, and it's like another layer of appropriation, because they're starting to add like hip hop and like dubstep beats to country music production. So of course, all of those structures are going to fall because they're stealing from the same people that they've always been stealing from.
Yeah.
You don't have to comment on that, but.
It's like it just never ends. It's almost like I'm like, oh wow, it's amazing the kind of ignorance that still just kind of keeps taking place, and
we talk about it a lot on the show about how about how does one, you know, use the medicine of cultures that are not your own or people that are not in your lineage. And what you're saying, I love how the beginning of the show started, which is like, we're all relations, we're all connected. So it's not about a sort of fundamental problem of don't take or don't borrow. It's about how you do it. So a project like
the relationship you establish.
And you're sort of healing. I just love this idea. I freaked out when you said re-mythologizing the American country songbook. So breathing life into those myths. There was another idea too that I just want to nerd out with you about for a second.
Right.
The idea of Uranus as a planet that when it makes big moves is actually welcoming in new archetypes, and that it has this power of, in its electric sort of shockwave that it sends through things, that it not only activates your own kundalini and causes these sort of peak experiences, but it can take lifeless, archetypes that have kind of outmoded themselves and create something new.
Give them the update. Yeah.
Give you that update, because it's got that tower energy where it destroys the old form, but it does preserve some kind of an essence, right?
Yeah, it preserves the truth and liberates it to create a new form. And so something Beautiful. That I was really, as I was studying the new moon that happened yesterday, mm-hmm. The new moon took place at the midpoint between the Saturn and Uranus square.
Whoa.
So it literally is the liminal space between the old forms and the new liberated, like the two paradigms.
Ooh, and I was saying, that gave me full body European shiver shakes. I was saying too in the beginning that we have an interesting thing, which is that then Saturn is going to be trining the moon conjunct the south node during the equinox. So I thought that was going to be really interesting. So we'll have like a very intimate awareness of what we're moving into the next journey with, what's behind us, what's going on. But I think this like Saturn in Aquarius is going to kind of, like you just said, hopefully give it some structure, give it some form, so that we can embark on a collective karmic journey from a space of individuality.
And I really am loving, I'm loving Saturn in Aquarius because it's that traditional ruler of Aquarius. And so it's, in so many ways, we got the full brunt of like Saturnian constriction and restriction and like when it was in Capricorn. And it's not like that kind of malevolent thing isn't possible in Aquarius, and Aquarius rules all sorts of crazy Aquarius has its own spectrum of stuff. But what I am excited about is that Saturn, when you're able to work with Saturn as a builder and as a stabilizer and as a make it real and give it roots and give it something, make it tangible, like don't let it just be an idea but make it tangible. Saturn, I'm excited about those possibilities of Saturn and Aquarius because of that tension with Uranus that just keeps saying like, is it new, is it new, is it new, is it new, is it making you freer, is it
right.
It's like it's just going to be, I just can feel the energy of it, that kind of
I'm seeing
electricity of it.
No, that's what I'm seeing, an image of a copper wire and of the electricity of Aquarius kind of running out into a circuit board through the very tangible copper wire of Saturn.
Ooh, yeah.
Yes.
And Saturn like structuring it and like
grounding
it all go to the right. Yeah. I love that.
Well, let me just give everybody a shout. So everybody who's watching, if you guys want a reading, do join us in the Zoom room. You might be skittish tonight, but because we're very fierce on the astrological tip over here. But come join us if you have a question, if you want a reading, you're very, very welcome to sit in with us. You find that through EdibleSpirit.com. There's a link for the Zoom room, also on Instagram at EdibleSpirit to come join. Let's see. So tell me about this, about the ancestral healing that you've been doing. We love to talk about, specific healing forms with someone who's experienced them, because I would love to know what you've gotten out of it. Tell me the person's name again and what you've gotten out of it.
The person I'm working with now is Kamara Thomas.
Cool.
Tamira, Tamira, Cousett, Cousett, and she's right at her name.com. And she's wonderful. I mean, again, this Piscean, and another good one is my friend Denise Padilla de Font, and she is at riverwaterhealing.com.
Okay.
And Denise is a therapist as well. So, and she kind of focuses on women's health and, mothering and things like that too. So, but what I've been doing with Tamira is like just really getting to know my ancestral lines, like really going into deep visualizations, which like I said, these Pisces healers, the space they hold, like, and especially as that Virgo, I'm like that lightning rod, that opposition,
right?
So I'm like, I'm always like, go gadget, integrate, and and the Piscean, so I've been experiencing some visualizations and like meditative states where I'm like, that are definitely more Piscean in nature. And I'm like, oh, I had no idea what kind of information and gathering and what could be gathered from this space, because usually I just fall asleep. You know what I mean? I'm like, my Virgo mind is like, oh, we're not working anything. Let's just go to sleep then. But she's able to kind of keep me in that liminal space, right? Where it's like, no, you're not asleep. You're gathering some information here. You're getting to know some people. You're taking a look around these ancestral lines. You're poking around just a little bit. And, and there's, I always suggest, if you're going to do ancestral healing, to make sure you do someone who is trained to do that, because there are, they set up, they help you with the boundaries in that world. Because remember that it's a very boundaryless, it's kind of a Piscean work, right? But there needs to be containers, because because you're dealing with your ancestry, you're not always dealing with healthy energies every step of the way.
Yep.
And so
we had Tiana Garugian on a few weeks ago, and they were talking about when they were doing ancestral work, they were talking about working with a practitioner and how their practitioner always calls in the wise and well, wise and well, so that ancestral invocation, you don't want to necessarily invoke Charlie, who's wandering the astral plane, looking for some hooch.
Yeah.
We love him. We might learn from him, but we don't necessarily want him to guide the healing tonight.
And the bright and wise one, if that guy needs to get a message to you, they can go through the bright and wise one. The bright and wise one is the mediator of all the things.
Yeah.
And so it's been incredibly helpful. And like, not only in a kind of like larger arc of my life and understanding certain things about my life, but also just in the specifics of like what I'm going through right now, like helping me to understand the kind of concentric circles. Like there have been these like moments of healing that just like reverberate through the whole thing, which is the beautiful thing about healing, isn't it? It's like you take out that thorn or that piece that you kind of bring to consciousness, and then it reverberates through your entire life. And you're like, wow, I didn't realize it was affecting that and that and that and that and that and that and that.
I wonder where your Chiron is, because that was a very Chironic statement you just made.
I have Chiron in the 8th in Aries.
Ooh, she's like, okay, let's
Heal it.
take it out, suck it up, get that poison, get it.
Dig it.
No, but that was my wake up to Chiron. Was in 2008 we studied with Barbara Handclough, who did a lot of the Chiron Rainbow Bridge, right? We took some workshops with her and had no understanding of what Chiron was or what, but just loved the idea of the force that points your awareness to the thing which, if healed and integrated, will restore the entire system to a greater integrity than ever imagined, or if left unattended, will cause the whole motherfucker to break down.
Yes.
Like, heal.
And you know, Chiron is thought in many astrological circles to be the actual ruler of Virgo because of its integrative force, right? Like it's always like circling in slowly on integrating you and making you like process all of it through.
You've made me love my Virgo even more.
Love it, baby. Love
always
it.
Talking shit about Virgos and Scorpios, Virgo rising, Scorpio sun. I'm just like, they're the worst. Wait, so let me ask you this. Does your Virgo ever go haywire, get out of control? And what do you do to manage like Virgo overload?
So Virgo, it's all about the head, right? Managing what the head is up to, right? Because there's always that mercurial, let's figure it out, let's overthink it, let's process it. And it can get overwhelming. And so there's a few things I do. I mean, I practice Kundalini yoga, which helps a lot. I, it's like if I can focus on the body and its sensations,
100%.
then, and make it a somatic situation, then that always helps a lot. And then with the head stuff, like things like procrastination is a big thing, things that like build up pressure in the thought patterns and head. There's a thing I've been doing where I like try to, again, it's a way to make it somatic. I try to feel the thoughts as pressure on top of my head, and try to feel like, oh, is that like, where's that pressure coming from? Because that's been helping me with procrastination, because there's like, if I feel pressure, that means that there's probably something that if I do it, I'll feel better. Right? Yeah. And that my friend Abby gave me that tool of like, when it comes to procrastination, just say, I'll feel better if I fill in the blank. And I've been trying that. That's been helping a lot. And then there's, are you you do any tapping?
I do mostly, I'm not too focused. I do mostly sternum tapping.
I love how you're just like, I just tap. Just tap everywhere. Tap. Well, I do some like serious tapping. Tapping is the easiest thing in the world, but it's really good for self-talk. And self-talk, I think, is kind of the key to processing the Virgo stuff, because once you hear it outside, you're able to focus it. It's like, in the beginning was the word. It's like bring it into word form, and then it's like those in like Harry Potter, when Dumbledore will like go into like that big pool and he'll like pull out a thought.
Yep.
Well, that's what I feel like. I'll tap and I'll say like, even though I'm stressed out because I didn't do the thing, I deeply and completely accept myself. So it's always kind of making me gestate the thoughts I'm thinking instead of just like.
Perfect. Yep, makes sense.
That's all I got.
No, that's perfect. No, that was way more than I got. All I can do is I just stop. I go, you gotta stop. You need to stop. You need to have a seat. But it's totally self-talk. It's
Yeah.
totally, yeah, but I can't fucking nap when I'm on a Virgo spin, please. No, and even then when I can't sleep, if I'm thinking too much, I'll do a practice from this book I read a long time ago about Nada Yoga, which is the yoga of sound, where you tune your ear to to listening to the silence around you, and you can add like a chant to it if you want, but mostly I do this trick that is you listen for the highest frequency sound that you can hear, and then you train your ear to listen to the silence that's just beyond that. And then if you hear another frequency, you go a little further, and so you're trying to listen to the unstruck sound of the universe. Ultimately, it's a little more effective for me than counting sheep.
Slightly more effective.
So, can I offer you a reading? I would love to give you a little snack time moment.
Oh my God.
So what we do is we tune into the collective. You're chatting with Mikey, the collective's here, and we ask the EdibleSpirit Collective, if Kamara were a snack in this moment, what snack would they be? It's really, it's beautiful. It's this like soda fountain that is definitely in the middle of the woods. It's covered in slime and moss and frogs and all these things. And it seems to me like there's some kind of ambrosia like woven into it, but what's very clear to me is that you did have a part in this, which is there are these like frogs spitting the soda out, amphibious. So we're talking, in the water and on the land, and they're shooting the nectar out of their mouth, and it's kind of going around the sides, and then there's like a big bubbly drinking. So yeah, so there's 4 frogs. Are they all frogs? Nope. The one in the north is a bear. So you've got a bear and 3 frogs, and then there's a fountain in the middle. It's all covered in green. There's, there might be some leeches on them. It's very creepy, crawly, slimy, delicious. But the thing that I keep seeing is that it tastes very, very sweet. Everything in this is sweet. It is deliciously distilled nectar. And then my spirits go, where's the source? Where's the source? And it goes deep, 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 deep down into a water table that is not water. It's just space. So if you were a snack, so this is an interesting thing. This tells me that usually what the spirits will bring through, what the collective will bring through, is something that needs to be reflected on in order to bring your system into ideal support and alignment.
Yes.
And what's lovely about this is there is something very much where I think it's about striking the balance between totally found organic humus, right? Mulch, decay, putrefaction, just all of these delicious foresty like things. But then with this like almost like, Dolly Levi era, like Music Man style, like town square fountain is what it looks like, with like a little pagoda kind of thing around it. So it is very Americana. It is very much, very like highly stylized in terms of, I don't know what they were made of, if it's like wrought iron, but it looks like it's cast metal almost. So there's this element of this which is highly structural and highly human made, but also aggressively from the decaying part of the forest floor, from the wettest, stinkiest part of it,
Yes.
So, and then as I'm looking at it now, I would also just say to you, it's like, maybe there's even an element here is like, know that the structure that you're working with does want to be highly composed, Virgoan, highly composed, but that it's okay in this new era for you to pile a whole bunch more stuff onto these structures, because the source of this has nothing to do with the structures. The source has to do with the void or the pleroma or the place where the one meets the other. You know, so as I'm looking at it, I would just say to you, I think there's almost like a beautifully finite quantity to the elements that make up your most perfect creations now, that it's like you're not a mystery. Your process is not a mystery to you anymore.
Yeah.
So I think there's an element of like, don't complicate anything.
Yeah.
But maybe there are structures that you could work more Virgo on, very refinedly, filing things and really getting into the nitty-gritty of it. But then really knowing that in order to honor that structure with the potency of the void from whence it comes, you gotta, it's very Hecate vibes. You know, it's very, this is not just like a verdant, you know, lady of the lake green forest. There's slugs and mud and, you know, all those smells.
Yes.
So I really think there's like, it's not just your freak flag. It's almost like, I did a reading for someone earlier today where there was like a wild woman card in it, where we've talked a lot about the archetype of the hermitess, like not full on Baba Yaga, but just the idea of like, at some point when you are working with a certain quotient of knowledge, you gotta just like sit in the filth and know what you know and do what you do. And if someone comes, have you seen this meme that's been going around about like, how is COVID quarantine, you know, has it affected your friendship or your social skills? And it's a picture of Tilda Swinton from the vampire movie just going, you know, and there's a certain element from this read for you where I would just say to you, like, know where your source comes from. Obviously you do. Pay attention to the structures, but don't be afraid to express the full but with more, with just more. Okay?
Yes.
That's your read. Thank you, Edible
That
Spirit.
blew my mind. That is like, that was everything. I'm going to have to watch that again and like get all my notes. I'm so excited. That was it in a nutshell.
It is my pleasure. It is my honor. It is a great joy because I basically just feel like I'm like, well, what's for lunch? Let's talk about this. We're like, cool, this flies.
I mean, I have so many questions for you too. I just love how your crew and your channel and your, is so somatic and so tangible and so like let's work with the earth on this, you know. It's not like floating in all of these places. It's like, no, we're here, like earth, like we came to embody, we came to like do stuff in these vehicles. It's really juicy and delicious.
The reason why, Kamara, is because this body was a very uncomfortable place for me for a very long time. And so all of my own personal work and my own healing work before I started doing readings and everything, when I was just trying to be well, was all about shame and the pain of disembodiment and of being embodied and not wanting to be like this at all. So this has been plus I grew up in the restaurant business where there was food fucking everywhere, but like, what about the inside? What about relationships? What about feelings? What about sensitivities? You know, and I always had this crowd of people moving through my life. So, and I'm built like an ox. So once I started doing readings, I was like, oh, wow. Even for the first few years, I judged myself so hard for not being pure enough, for not being good enough, for not being meditative enough, ascetic enough. And then a really good friend of mine who was on the show a while ago, Nicole, she said to me, she was like, we should do a workshop because she just got her death doula certification and she's very Vedanta, like non-dualist, like very like psycho Shiva, like all is death, let's fucking burn it. Like she it's crazy. She's so amazing. But she said to me, she was like, we should do a workshop about all and nothing. And you get to be all, and I get to be nothing. I was like, oh my God, that's my medicine. So I really, really receive and appreciate what you said here, because that's the vibe. Is I have no bones about keeping myself to myself. I like putting it out there, all of it, because I haven't always loved all of it, and I do now. And I think it's important to express that, because I didn't know how to do that, So thank you. Yeah. And the collective helps, it's the other thing of it too, is that I never really cared. I got a couple guides when I first started doing readings, but like, I felt so inferior so many times because I couldn't see my guides or talk to my guides or whatever, that we sort of made a simpatico agreement, which is, these guides are not here to make you feel bad that you don't talk to your guides. They're here to be like, don't worry, we're here.
Yeah.
And so what I've always said to people too is like, if you want to connect to your guides, don't be a freak about trying to see them or hear them or have some specific outcome. Just start relating to them and build a regular practice, Virgo, of relating to them.
That's really good information for me too, because because I'm so tangible based, I've always, it's like the earth is just like, it's earth and water, and I mean, and the head, but it's like that, I don't have that much fire, and so that it's really, it's so easy for me to doubt, like, is that something, is that, and just that idea of like, you can approach this the same way that you approach everything else.
Well, and especially your ancestors, because I'm convinced that it works through the DNA just the same, and because that's where the light language occurs and where that shoots down. The other thing I'll just tell you by way of verification, I had a really interesting experience. My first experience channeling was in 2008, my first like official experience, where I had been working with this book by Sanaya Roman called Opening.
Love Sanaya Roman.
And I had done my guide exercise, and I had done this exercise where I recorded and did the meditation, asked the guide for a name, and I got a name. Now, my partner, Eduardo, is Cuban and, has like a history of, as a kid, he was actually medicated because he would have visions. And I got my first reading with a santera who told him that he should take his vows and that he could channel spirits and do all this stuff. But he didn't want to do that, but it was in the air. And he knew he had a guide because she said to him, you have a guide. Mm-hmm. So we sat down winter solstice of 2008, he and I, to practice channeling. And the test was ask Eduardo's guide, my guide's name, which I had never told him. And his guide came in, entered in very strong, because he like resists. And then the guide comes in and it's like, wha-boom, right? Like a very Santeria voodoo kind of possession style way.
Yeah.
And he is sitting there and he's like this old, like goatee man with a thick old accent who smokes a cigar, and he's just like, and I was like, okay, Tomas was his name, is his name. I was like, what is my guide's name? And he said her fucking name. And her name is not, Susan, it's Aurora, was my first guide that I ever encountered. That was the name that I'd gotten. And my partner says it to me, and I was so shook that I couldn't process it. I was like, how did you even know that? So I did get that little bit of double-blind kind of study that then made me go, I can't explain that.
Yeah.
Let's just trust that someone or something is there. And then the other thing I always try to tell people is like, if you didn't exist, they would be out of a job, so they are just an aspect of your being that wants the best for you, and that, that wants you to hit all the moments that you kind of came here to hit. But I think whatever you can do to dismantle any doubt or any I can't do this helps, because then that encourages you to build up some kind of regular relationship with them, so that then when you do have a question or when you do need something, it's right there. It's that much easier for them to come in, because at the end of the day, if you're not open to a guide will just use your intuition and amplify it. So they're still working with you through your psychic senses.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's all such good advice.
Well, thank you. I've learned so much from you this evening. Let's talk a little bit about Deliciousness, our last moment of the night. Anything on the earth plane, which is giving you life, lifting you up and out, or submerging you in the Pisces, just something that's tangible here that takes you up and out.
Well, earlier today, like literally before I came to do this, I had did my first try at making Indian garlic pickle.
Whoa.
So one of my friends gave me Indian garlic pickle for Christmas, you know, like when you pass around the apple. I made apple butter and orange and blood orange marmalade that I passed around, but she gave us garlic pickle. And it's so mind-blowingly good. It's like a condiment that...
How does it work? I don't even know what it is.
I mean, it's literally, I took like 3 cups of garlic cloves, like whole garlic cloves. And then I toasted like cumin and coriander and fenugreek and ground that up. You know, and I've been collecting all the spices for like a month and a half now. Like, and then you like toast these spices and you grind them up, and then you like, I cut up like red chilies and put that in with the garlic inside this like mustard oil and sesame oil, and you just kind of like simmer the garlic in it, the whole garlic cloves. Then you stick in like curry leaves and asafoetida. I don't know how to pronounce that. And then you put in, you know, your spices and some turmeric and some tamarind and like whole like brown mustard seeds. And it's like this, it becomes this like gooey garlic, you know, like gooey, spicy garlic stuff that I put on noodles, put it on eggs. It's just like you just lop it onto anything. And it's like, I just kind of, once it's there, I just kind of look around.
What can I put this on?
So yeah, what can I eat? What can I put this on to eat?
So wait, in terms of acid in it, there's no vinegar, but there's the tamarind, or is there vinegar in it?
Yeah, I think some people put, I literally looked up like 3 different recipes to try to like comb through and be like, I think I'm going to do this, this, and this. Some people have put vinegar in it. I put a little lemon juice and lemon rind in it.
Well, let me tell you about this
lemon zest.
This other book that's called Usha's Pickle Digest. Have you heard about this book?
No.
So it's this little old lady in India who wrote recipes for pickles for the neighborhood that people started obsessing over. She became she turned it into a PDF that became an international viral sensation of people making this lady's pickles. And the book is finally published, Usha's Pickle Digest.
How do I spell Usha?
USHA, Usha's Pickle Digest. Yeah, I'll send you info about it. I just got it. I'm obsessed.
My mouth is watering.
I know, right? So my thing is this smoky quartz massage wand chode thing, which has like a flat base on the bottom, or a more flat base, and then a really yummy point. And I've been on devices for too long. I got this very soothing video game on my phone that is like you're an underwater scuba diver who takes pictures of creatures underwater. So I was playing it for too long the other day, and it gave me, I have like a little carpal tunnel anyway because I'm on the computer so much, but like I'm just finding these little points to get in and just like it's gnarly in there, but I'm working on it little bit by little bit. And then there's another way, the first time I got it, where if you find a spot in your neck and actually get in on the spot that hurts and then just turn, it actually gets to like occipital stuff. And then I also realized, probably from devices as well, that these muscles are really shortened on me from looking down so much. So I've been going in.
Where are those?
Oh man, so it's just a crystal massage wand, but this one happens to be smoky quartz. I gave an old friend of mine a really cool one that was a different stone that's like a pocket version of this, but I rock this. It's been all over me.
This makes me want to give myself a face massage.
It's really cute because I feel like we've transmitted enough Pisces to one another that like we're gonna need to like do that, go massage, and bathe, and douse ourselves.
I liked your description of like the Pisces being like the hot tub where you just go to let it all go.
It's come up so much with the idea of the dissolution as well, being like, you don't have to tell these things to fall away in Pisces. You just have to be like, you. And then the ocean's like, and then you elevate, you lift up. So let's hold that space for each other and for everybody watching, and for anybody who encounters this, that may this tail end of the Pisces season be healing and natural and freeing and uplifting and purifying and cleansing, and may it bring closure to a cycle so that we all experience the bliss of initiation anew as the spring settles upon us.
Wow.
Thank you, Kamara. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you for having me. Can I come back?
Yes, anytime. And then P.S., I live down the road from your buddy.
I know. I'm coming to visit you this summer. I'm road tripping. It's happening.
You're very welcome.
Swim in Lake Otsego together.
That's the case. And we've been talking a little bit about doing like a theater festival at the end of the summer up here too. So because there's an outdoor amphitheater in Cherry Valley. So so let's time it accordingly.
About that, because I can make some theater. I can get some shit. I can throw some shit together.
We will. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining. Let's just tell everybody where they can find you. What's your website?
You can find my music at KamaraThomas.com. You can find Country Soul Songbook at CountrySoulSongbook.com. And you can find my tarot and astrology offerings at HellaWitchy.com.
Hella Witchy, and that's also Hella Witchy Readings on Instagram, right?
Yes, Hella Witchy Readings on Instagram, and Kamara Thomas Music on Instagram.
Brilliant. Well, with that, thank you all. We'll be back for one more episode next week on Sunday, the 21st. Then we're going to take a little break and gather our thoughts and collect ourselves and reemerge fresh a little bit later in the year. But we will be back next week, so stay tuned. You can get, readings with Kamara. You can also get readings with Edible Spirit at ediblespirit.com or on Instagram at EdibleSpirit. But really, truly, we love you because you are so delicious. Thank you for being here, and we will see you next time. Good night. Edible Spirit.